I am reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 6, name Prahlad instruct his demonic schoolmates. Text number 18. My dear friends, O son of the demons, it is certain that no one bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hare Krishna, has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time or in any country. Whether those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by the material laws, they are factually addicted to sense gratification, and their target is women. Indeed, they are actually playthings in the hands of attractive women, victimized by such a conception of life. They become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren, and thus they are shackled to material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Therefore, also you are sons of demons. Keep aloof from such persons and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, the origin of all the demigods, because the ultimate goal for the devotees of Narayan is liberation from the bondage of material existence. My dear sons of demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, is the original Supersoul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing Him or worshipping Him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a fact, and therefore there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable, is present in different forms of life, from the inert living beings, Sarva, such as the planet, plants to Brahmaji, the four most created living beings. He is also present in the varieties of material creations and in the material elements, the total material energy and the modes of material nature, Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. Although he is one, he is present everywhere, and he is also the transitional supersoul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the course of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and has the all-pervading supersoul, but actually he cannot be addicted. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the supreme Sachidananda, eternity, knowledge and bliss, being covered by the curtain of the external energy. To the atheist, he appears non-existence. Therefore, my dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demonic nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well wishers. Nothing is unavoidable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, the original source of everything. The Lord is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities. For devotees, therefore, who are transitional to the modes of material nature, what is the use of following the principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which are all automatically above? obtainable under the influence of the modes of nature. We devotees always glorify the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore we need not ask for anything in terms of dharma, kam, artha, and moksha. Religion, economic development, and science gratification. These are described in the Vedas as three work or three ways to salvation. Within these three categories are education and self realization. Heuristic ceremonies performed according to Vedic injunction, logic, the science of the law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of study in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transitional. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, formally explained this transitional knowledge of the great Saint Narad. Such knowledge is extremely difficult to understand without the mercy of a saintly person like Narad, but everyone who has taken shelter of Narad's disciplic succession can understand this confidential knowledge. Prahlad Maharaj continued, I received this knowledge from the great Saint Narad Muni, who is always engaged in devotional service. This knowledge, which is called Bhagwadh, is fully scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is free from all material contamination. The sons of the demon replied, Dear Prahlad, neither nor we know any teacher or spiritual master other than Sanda and Amar, the sons of Sukracharya. After all, we are children and they are our controllers. For you, especially, who always remain within the palace, it is very difficult to associate with a great personality. Dear friend, most gentle one, would you kindly explain how it was possible for you to hear Narad? Kindly dispel our doubts in this regard. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the seventh canto, sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Narad instructs his demonic schoolmates. Chapter 7 What Prahlad learned in the womb. In this chapter, to dissipate the doubts of his classmates, friends, the sons of the demons, Prahlad Maharaj states how, within the womb of his mother, he had heard from the mouth of Narad Muni, who had instructed him in Bhagavad Dharma, when Hiranyakashipu left his kingdom and went to the mountain known as Mandrachal to execute severe austerities. All the demons scattered. Hiranyakashipu's wife Kayadu was pregnant at that time, and the demigods, mistakenly thinking that she carried another demon in her womb, arrested her. Their plan was that as soon as the child took birth, they would kill him. While they were taking Kayadu to the heavenly planets, they met Narad Muni, who stopped them from taking her away and took her to his ashram until Hiranyakashipu's return. In Narad Muni's ashram, Kayadu prayed for the protection of the baby in her womb, and Narad Muni reassured her and gave her instructions on spiritual knowledge. Taking advantage of those instructions, Prahlad Maharaj, although a small baby within the womb, listened very carefully. The spirit soul is always apart from the material body. There is no change in the spiritual form of the living entity. Any person above the bodily conception of life is pure and can receive transitional knowledge. This transitional knowledge is devotional service. And Prahlad Maharaj, while living in the home of his mother, received instructions in devotional service from Narad Muni. Any person engaged in the service of the Lord through the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master is immediately liberated, and being free from the clutches of Maya, he is relieved of all ignorance and material desires. The duty of everyone is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord and thus become free from all material desires, regardless of the material conditions in which one is situated. One can achieve this perfection. Devotional service is not dependent on the material activity of austerity, penance, mystic yoga, or piety. Even without such assets, one can achieve devotional service through the mercy of a pure devotee. Text 1. Narad Muni said, although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of asuras, he was the greatest of all devotees, having thus been questioned by his class friends, the sons of the asuras. He remembered the words spoken to him by me and replied to his friends as follows. Prahlad Maharaj said, when our father Hiranyakashipu went to Mandachal mountain to execute severe austerities, in his absence, the demigods headed by King Indra made a severe attempt to subdue all the demons in warfare. Alas, as a serpent is eaten by small ants, so the troublesome Hiranyakashipu, who always inflicted miseries upon all types of people, has now been defeated by the reactions of his own sinful activities. Saying this, the demigods headed by King Indra arranged to fight the demons. When the great leaders of the demons, who were being killed one after another, saw the unprecedented exertion of the demigods in fighting, they began to flee, scattering themselves in all directions simply to protect their lives. They hastily fled from their homes, wives, children, animals, and household paraphernalia. Paying no heed to all this, the demons simply fled. The victorious demigods plundered the palace of Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, and destroyed everything within it. Then in the king of heaven arrested my mother, the queen. As she was being led away, crying in fear like a Purari captured by a vulture, the great sage Narad, who at that time had no engagement, appeared on the scene and saw her in that condition. Narad Muni said, O Indra, king of the demigods, this woman is certainly sinless. You should not drag her off in this merciless way. O greatly fortunate one, this chaste woman is the wife of another. You must immediately release her. King Indra said, in the womb of this woman, the wife of the demon Hiranyakashipu is the seed of that great demon. Therefore, let her remain in our custody until her child is delivered, and then we shall release her. Narad Muni replied, the child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. Indeed, he is a great devotee, a powerful servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. When the great sage Narad Muni had thus spoken, King Indra, being respectful to Narad's words, immediately released my mother. Because of my being a devotee of the Lord, all the demigods circumambulated her. Then they returned to their celestial kingdom. Prahlad Maharaj continued, The great Saint Narad Muni brought my mother to his ashram and assured her of all protection, saying, "My dear child, please remain at my ashram until the arrival of your husband." After accepting the instructions of Devasi Narad, my mother stayed in his care without fear from any direction as long as my father, the king of the Daityas, had not become free from his severe austerities. My mother, being pregnant, desired the safety of her emperor and desired to give birth after her husband's arrival. Thus she stayed at Narad Muni's ashram, where she rendered service unto Narad Muni with great devotion. Narad Muni delivered his instructions both to me, who was within the womb, and to my mother, who was engaged in rendering him service, because he is naturally extremely kind to the fallen souls. Being in a transitional position, he gave instructions on religion and transitional knowledge. These instructions were free from all material contamination. Because of the long duration of time that has passed, and because of her being a woman and therefore less intelligent, my mother has forgotten all those instructions. But the great sage Narad blessed me, and therefore I could not forget them. Prahlad Maharaj continued, "My dear friends, if you can place your faith in my words, simply by that faith, you can also understand transitional knowledge, just like me, although you are small children. Similarly, a woman can also understand transitional knowledge and know what is spirit and what is matter." Just as the fruit and flowers of a tree in due course of time undergo six changes: birth, existence, growth, transformation, dwindling, and then death. The matter body, which is obtained by the spirit soul under different circumstances, undergoes similar changes. However, there are no such changes for the spirit soul. Atma refers to the Supreme Lord for the living entities. Both of them are spiritual, free from birth and death, free from deterioration, and free from material contamination. They are individual, they are the knowers of the external body, and they are the foundation of shelter of everything. They are free from material change, they are self illuminated, they are the cause of all causes, and they are all pervading. They have nothing to do with the material body, and therefore they are always uncovered. With these transitional qualities, one who is actually learned must give up the illusory conception of life in which one thinks, "I am this material body and everything in relationship with this body is mine." An expert geologist can understand where there is gold and by various processes can extract it from the gold ore. Similarly, a spiritually advanced person can understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body, and thus by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. However, as one who is not expert cannot understand where there is gold, a foolish person who has not cultivated spiritual knowledge cannot understand how the spirit exists within this body. The Lord said separated material energies the three modes of material nature and the 16 transformations, the 11 senses, and the five gross material elements like earth and water. Within all this, the one spiritual soul exists as the observer. Therefore, all the great acharyas have concluded that the individual soul is conditioned by these material elements. Sober and expert person should reach for the spirit soul with minds purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection with and distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. Intelligence can be pursued in three states of activity: wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. The person who pursues these three is to be considered the original master, the ruler, the supreme personality of Godhead. As one can understand the presence of the air by the aromas it carries, so under the guidance of the supreme personality of Godhead, one can understand the living soul by these three divisions of intelligence. These three divisions, however, are not the soul. They are constituted of the three modes of and are born of activities. Through polluted intelligence, one is subjected to the modes of nature, and thus one is conditioned by material existence, like a dreaming state in which one falsely suffers. Material existence, which is due to ignorance, must be considered unwanted and temporary. Therefore, my dear friends, O son of the demons, your duty is to take to Sri Krishna consciousness, which can burn the seed of fruitive activities artificially created by the modes of material nature and stop the flow of the intelligence in wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In other words, when one takes to Sri Krishna consciousness, his ignorance is immediately dissipated. Of the different process recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, and in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transitional qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra and Guru. One should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his localized representation as the Paramatma, who is situated in the core of every living entity's heart. Thus, one should offer respect to every living entity according to that living entity's position or manifestation. By these activities, as mentioned above, one is able to cut down the influence of the enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy, and when thus situated, one can render service to the Lord. In this way, one surely attained a platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of the transitional qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnations for the performance of various pastimes, his hair stands on end, his body, tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transitional jubilation. When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation and he offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, he becomes careless of social etiquette and loudly chants like a madman. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. O my Lord, O Master of the universe. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination because he constantly thinks of the Lord pastimes and because his minds and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Because of his intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burnt to ashes. This is the state at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is touched with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, by the transitional bliss, realized from constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, O son of the Asuras, immediately began meditating upon and worshipping the Super Soul within everyone's heart. O my friends, son of the Asuras, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Super Soul feature always exists within the cores of the hearts of all living entities. Indeed, he is the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, and there is no difficulty in worshipping the Lord. Why then should people not engage in his devotional service? Why are they so addicted to unnecessarily producing artificial paraphernalia for sense gratification? One's riches, beautiful wife and female friends, one's sons and daughters, one's residence, one's domestic animals like cows, elephants and horses, one's treasury, economic development, and sense gratification. Indeed, even in lifetime, in which one can enjoy all these material opulences, are certainly temporary and flickering. Since the opportunity of human life is temporary, what benefit can this material opulence give to a sensible man who has understood himself to be eternal? It is learned from Vedic literature that by performing great sacrifices, one may elevate himself to the heavenly planets. However, although life on the heavenly planets is hundreds and thousands of times more comfortable than life on earth, the heavenly planets are not pure, nirmalam, or free from the taint of material existence. The heavenly planets are also temporary and therefore they are not the goal of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, has never been seen or heard to possess inevitably. Consequently, for your own benefit and self realization, you must worship the Lord with great devotion, as described in the revealed scriptures. A materialistic person, thinking himself very advanced in intelligence, continually acts for economic development, but again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, is frustrated by material activities, either in this life or in the next. Indeed, the results one obtains one inevitably the opposite of those one desires. In this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his condition of distress begins. A living entity desires comfort for his body and makes many plans for this purpose, but actually, the body is the property of others. Indeed, the perishable body embraces the living entity and then leaves him aside. Since the body itself is ultimately meant to become stone on earth, what is the meaning of the paraphernalia related to the body, such as wives, residence, wealth, children, relatives, servants, friends, kingdoms, treasuries, animals, and ministers? They are also temporary. What more can be said about this? All this paraphernalia is very near and dear as long as the body exists, but as soon as the body is destroyed, all things related to the body are also finished. Therefore, actually, one has nothing to do with them, but because of ignorance, one accepts them as valuable. Compared to the ocean of eternal happiness, they are most insignificant. What is the use of such insignificant relationships for the eternal living being? My dear friends, O son of the Asuras, the living entity receives different types of bodies according to his previous fruitive activities. Thus, he is seen to suffer with reference to his particular body in all conditions of life, beginning with his infusion into the womb. Please tell me, therefore, after full consideration, what is the living entity's actual interest in fruitive activities which result in hardship and misery? The living entity who has received his present body because of his past fruitive activity may end the results of his actions in this life, but this does not mean that he is liberated from bondage to material bodies. The living entity receives one type of body, and by performing actions with that body, he creates another. Thus, he transmigrates from one body to another through repeated birth and death because of his gross ignorance. The four principles of advancement in spiritual life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my dear friends, follow in the footsteps of devotees. Without desire, fully depend upon the disposition of the Supreme Lord. Worship Him, the Super Soul, in devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the soul and the super soul of all living entities. Every living entity is a manifestation of His energy in terms of the living soul and the material body. Therefore, the Lord is the most dear and is the supreme controller. If a demigod, demon, human being, yaksha, gandharvas, or anyone within this universe renders service to the lotus feet of Mukunda, who can deliver liberation, he is actually situated in the most auspicious condition of life, exactly like us, the Mahajans, headed by Prahlad Maharaj. My dear friends, O son of the demons, you cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming perfect Brahmans, demigods, or great saints, or by becoming great, perfectly good, inadequate, or vast learning. Now of this, none of this qualification can awaken the pleasure of the Lord, nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to Him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a show. My dear friends, O son of the demons, in the same favorable way, let one sees himself and take care of himself, take to devotional service to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present everywhere as the super soul of all living entities. O my friends, O son of the demons, everyone including you, the Yakshas and Rakshasas, the unintelligent woman, Sudras and cowherd man, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living entities can receive his original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to seize him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life, as explained by all the revealed scriptures. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the seventh canto, seventh chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. Chapter 8, Lord Nrsimhadev stays the king of the demons. As described in this chapter, Hiranyakashipu was ready. Hare Krishna. Hiranyakashipu was ready to kill his own son Prahlad Maharaj, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared in front of the demon as a Narkeshari, half lion and half man, and killed him. Following the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj, all the sons of the demons become attached to Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When this attachment became pronounced, their teachers Santa and Amar were very much afraid that the boys would become more and more devoted to the Lord. In a helpless condition, they approached Hiranyakashipu and described it in detail the effect of Prahlad's preaching. After hearing of this, Hiranyakashipu decided to kill his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was so angry that Prahlad Maharaj fell down at his feet and said many things just to pacify him, but he was unsuccessful and satisfied his demonic father. Hiranyakashipu is a typical demon, began to advertise himself as being greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Prahlad Maharaj challenged him, saying that Hiranyakashipu was not God, and began to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, declaring that the Lord is all pervading, that everything is under him, and that no one is equal to or greater than him. Thus he requested his father to be submissive to the omnipotent Supreme Lord. The more Prahlad Maharaj glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the more angry and agitated the demon became. Hiranyakashipu asked his Vaishnava son whether his gods existed within the columns of his palace, and Prahlad Maharaj immediately accepted that since the Lord is present everywhere, he was also present within the columns. When Hiranyakashipu heard this philosophy from his young son, he desired he derided the boy's statements as just the talk of a child and forcefully struck the pillar with his fist. As soon as Hiranyakashipu struck the column, there issued forth of tumultuous sound. At first Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, could not see anything but the pillar, but to substantiate Prahlad's statements, the Lord came out of the pillar in his wonderful incarnation as Narsimha, half lion and half man. Hiranyakashipu could immediately understand that extraordinary wonderful form of the Lord was surely meant for his death, and thus he prepared to fight with the form of a half lion and half man. The Lord performed his pastimes by fighting with the demon for some time, and in the evening, on the border between day and night, the Lord captured the demon thief on his lap and killed him by piercing his abdomen with his nails. The Lord not only killed Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, but also killed many of his followers. When there was no one else to fight, the Lord, roaring with anger, sat down on Hiranyakashipu's throne. The entire universe was the slave of the rule of Hiranyakashipu, and everyone was jubilant in transitional bliss. Then all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahmaji, approached the Lord. This included the great saintly persons, the Pitas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Nagas, the Manus, the Prajapatis, the Gandharvas, the Charanas, the Yakshas, the Kimpurusas, the Vaidalikas, the Kinnaras, and also many other varieties of beings in human form. All of them stood not far from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and began offering their praise unto the Lord, whose spiritual effulgence was brilliant as he sat on the throne. Hare Krishna.